This is Life Lessons Lounge, and I am Igina Gerazi. Here, we explore diverse life stories and the wisdom they hold. Let's delve into the stories that shape us, teach us, and connect us all. My guest today is Brytta Moreira, who is a founder and owner of the Yoga Hostel in Lisbon, Portugal. She has traveled in 19 countries teaching yoga for the last 10 years. We talk about how is it to travel and teach yoga, as well as how do you reconnect to your intuition, especially while traveling and every other day. And she shares with us a 3-step practice of what to do. How do you recognize your intuition? How do you connect to that intuition, which is called the powerhouse check-in. Importance of being a 10-dimensional person so that you can learn how to make money in 10 different ways. She shares her advice for new yoga teachers. We also end up with how do you cultivate and follow your wild. Brytta is an inspiring woman, and I think everybody, even if you're not into yoga, will get a lot out of it. So have a listen. Welcome, my dear. Welcome to my lounge.
Thank you for having me. It's so pretty. I wish all of you could see all the lights and oracle cards around here because it's really cool. I like it.
Oh, I'm happy. So I actually wanted to ask you around how did you start with yoga? What's the story?
Thank you for asking that question. I'm Brytta, by the way, and I've been practicing yoga for 12 years. I started when I was 18. So when I was 13, I had a spinal issue called scoliosis, and I had it corrected through having metal rods in my spine. And I was a dancer at the time. I danced 6 days a week, my whole life. And then I had the surgery, and it basically took away all my flexibility and it took away my range of motion. So balance suddenly was just unattainable. I'd fall a lot. And I was in a lot of pain, and my doctors would just say, take ibuprofen or go lay down for the rest of your life. And I'm like, you know what, that's not possible for a 13-year-old. And I just returned to dance, and the pain wouldn't go away. And then at 18, my college roommate invited me to a yoga class, in our dorm building. And I was like, what's yoga? I'll go. And it was the first day, in all of those years, that my body stopped hurting. Mm-hmm. And I was like, is this how normal people feel? Your back's not hurting. And I just started going to yoga 6 to 8 hours a day after that. I was instantly hooked.
Went to the other side.
Yeah. I was 1 hour to just became a yogi because it just felt so good in my body. And I kept practicing for 2 years. And then I was acting in New York at the time, and I was in conservatory, and I got invited to go to Greece to do an acting troupe and be part of a show over there, and they needed someone to warm up the actors through yoga. And I'm like, well, I practice yoga, so I guess I'll teach it. And that was the day the universe just aligned inside of me. And it was the day that I quit acting as well. I knew right then and there, I'm like, oh, I'm meant to teach yoga for the rest of my life. And it just it felt so good, just hearing and seeing how people felt after the practice. And I went back to New York, and I got all my certifications. And then after about a year and a half teaching in New York, I booked a one-way to Europe, and I just traveled the world and taught yoga for my entire 20s. And that's kind of how yoga came into my life.
Oh my God, that's so beautiful.
Thank
But
you.
You've been also so young.
Yeah.
Right? Into it. And you've been everywhere around.
Yeah. I knew when I was on that Greek island, I'm like, well, if I can teach yoga on this Greek island, can I teach yoga on all of the islands? That's why I went back to New York and got my certifications, because I knew I wanted to travel with it. And one of the girls in my yoga teacher training, she graduated the training and the next day flew to Costa Rica and started doing it. And I'm like, that's really cool. And she inspired me, and then I started doing it because of her. I just messaging her every day being like, how did you get this job? How did you do it? And she's like, I just booked a one-way to a country and went to a bar, and the bar let me have their space when they weren't open. And that's how she started teaching. And I'm like, oh, so yoga can be not in a studio as well. It can be in a home, it can be in a bar, it can be in a theater. We can get creative with spaces, because then it makes it more accessible. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how's this life for you?
It's amazing. I love yoga. I love teaching yoga. And I love that it can be accessible. Like, for example, like I have the rods in my spine, and like I'm not a yoga person who can like kick my face. I can't do deep back bends. And I have learned to like make it adaptable and accessible to my body so that I can continue practicing. Like if yoga was just handstands, I couldn't do it. That's just not available to me. And that's why it's so good, because like I have learned how to make it accessible for myself. And because of that, I have learned how to make it accessible for others and everyday people. And that's what I'm passionate about. Like I really want to bring yoga to everyone. Like if you're sitting at a desk all day, it's for you. If you're a single mom, it's for you. If you have a disability like I do, it's for you. And that's why I love it so much, because it's available for all of us.
And how do you make it accessible for everyone? Like, are your classes specifically for people with disabilities, for example, or moms, or do you mix them together?
A little bit of both. So I do teach a yoga class called Yoga for Adults with Disabilities. I call it Fabulous Yoga. And it's for adults who have autism and have Down syndrome. And I teach accessible yoga to them. So I'm not just certified in like normal vinyasa yoga. I'm a kids certified yoga teacher, a paddleboard yoga teacher. I've like gotten my 300 hour in like different types of yoga. So like I've learned different styles of yoga and different ways to teach so that I can like provide it in different ways. So I teach that class. And then in my classes at the studio, I call it like yoga for everyday people. And what I do is, rather than being like, we're going to teach this type of class today, I really like sit down with the class before it starts. And I'm like, what are you feeling in your body today? Like, are there any injuries? Do you have a disability? Like, how are your shoulders feeling? Like, what's your spine telling you today? Because I really want people to like connect to their bodies and communicate to me. And then right there, like, in real time, I just teach the class, because I notice that if I like have a class prepared for that, I can't be as present. So I would rather just like come into the room and be like, what do you need? And I'm going to teach you like what's going to help you.
So it's very customized.
Absolutely. And I'm a better teacher that way, because I'm more present with them. Because if I like have it prepared, I'm in my head the whole time and I can't really be there.
That's beautiful. So in terms of what I can see, it's a different practices of yoga, and then you put them together.
Yeah.
But your base, what's your base?
So I have a base of vinyasa and yin. So I actually teach both in most classes, because I want the bodies to be warm. We don't really have that problem in Portugal. We're always warm here. But we warm up the body like through the sun salutations, through warrior postures, balance postures. And then the last 20, I'd say like 35 to 20 minutes of the class, it's all yin. But in my classes, it's not like vinyasa to like do chaturanga flows. Like I provide a lot of modifications. Like I provide 3 to 6 modifications for each posture. That way everyone has something they can practice. Like I don't want to force someone to stay in something if it doesn't feel good for them. And that way, like they know that they always have options. And that's something I'm practicing in my life too. Like, what are my options? And when we can bring that in our yoga mat, we can bring that in our life.
But that's beautiful that you make the connection, with yoga and life.
Yeah.
So how do you see it reflected in your life as well?
I love this question. I see yoga reflected in my life, like when really hard things happen. Like, for example, like if I'm going through heartbreak, if I have like a really bad illness, like COVID or something, or if I'm like stressed out at work and I'm like, okay, like how can I bring what I have learned on my mat into my life? And I also like really apply it to like social justice things. So like we have 8 limbs of yoga, and one of them is asana, which is the postures that I teach, but another one is pranayama, the breath. Another one like are the yamas and niyamas, and like one of them is ahimsa, called nonviolence. And it's like, okay, like how can I practice these things off of my mat? So like one of the things I've done is I went to refugee camps in Greece, and I had an opportunity. I thought like this little Western girl going over there, I'm like, I'm going to teach them yoga and teach them postures. And then like what I learned is that like the mothers needed milk for their babies, and like they needed water and they needed food, and they just needed someone to sit down with them and listen. And that's yoga. Like what if the postures we learn help us be in silence so we can be active listeners? Because that is just as much of a practice as anything else. So I think it's teaching me how to be of service to other people. And that is what really lights me up, because it's what connects all of us and helps us realize that we're all the same. Like we're all walking the same planet. we were just born into different privileges and different lifestyles. And if we can use our practice to be of service, then I think that is like the highest version of practicing yoga.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
Thank you.
So you've done that with refugees.
Yeah, in Greece.
That's really inspiring.
It is. I think refugees are like the coolest people on the planet. Where I went to do it, it was actually, so my dad's side of the family is Greek, and it was on the island my grandparents are from. And like, I couldn't have planned that. It kind of just like happened. And, you know, like we live a life where we have like apartments and like we can like go out to the beach every day with our friends, and like refugees who are really just humans have had everything taken away from them, whether it's because of like war or even like climate change. And when I was working in those camps, they were the most like grateful people I've ever met in my entire life. Like they were grateful that like the sun was up another day and that they had water that day and that like they could have someone to sit down with them and listen to them. And it's just like, yeah, like that's life, like the light in the sky another day to remind us we're all still here, or like hydrating our bodies and taking care of ourselves. And they just like, I think about them every single day and just the people I met there, because they taught me so much, like just a practice of gratitude and like just being like presently being here. Yeah.
What an enriching experience.
It transformed my life. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's touching actually to hear about it, because I think it's also such courageous people and resilient people.
And it's almost like they don't have a choice. Like it's like you have to be. And I think that is like what we have as a privilege. Like we don't have to wake up and be courageous every day, but like they do. And they do it so they can survive. And because they like have a dream of like being able to go to another country, like it most of it starts in Greece, and then like they get like they have, if they get asylum, they get to go throughout Europe or like to another country in Europe, and it's like, or it's not promised. And I just think it's so courageous and it's so brave, just like for them to wake up another day and be like, no, like it's going to happen. Like we have nothing else to hope for, you know? Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And you have lived in many countries or traveled to many countries.
19 right? so far.
19. Beautiful. But lived in...
I probably lived in 15 out of 19 of them. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm like, I like to move around. And I think it was good to do in my 20s. Like I definitely still miss traveling, but what's cool about Portugal is like we have trains and planes that go like all over, not just this country, but Europe. So it's a little bit more accessible. But like I'm from the States, and like it's not as accessible to like travel cross country there. So I just like left the country. But yeah, I have lived in around 15 or 16, and I've traveled to 19, all teaching yoga. And it's so cool to do it that way, because it's like we all travel for different reasons, for holidays, for families, for like work now. And I got to do it through yoga, and like I got to work in hotels and festivals and hostels and like retreat centers and studios and refugee camps, and like I got to learn just like how we get to practice yoga in different ways and with different people. And it's kind of like, you know, when you travel and like you sit down and you eat dinner with people, that's how I feel yoga is when we travel. It's like we're coming to like one similar place, and we're all like bringing the world with us and like sharing our practice in that way.
I actually wanted to stop a little bit at all the lessons that you've learned, also from traveling and combining it with yoga. And you started it a little bit.
Yeah.
I'd love to listen more.
I think one of like the biggest lessons I learned in my travels and teaching yoga, especially like as a woman, like I did it a solo traveler. Like I didn't have a partner traveling with me. I didn't have my family. Like I would just book one ways to countries I've never been to, which like I'm 30 now, and I'm like, like that was a little wild. But something I really cultivated was my intuition. Especially as women who are traveling solo, like we have to like know when something's like a hard yes and a hard no. And like I never really had any like dangerous things happen while traveling. Like I did almost get robbed in Italy, and I like screamed at the person, and it was just my natural reaction. I was like, what are you doing? And they like got scared and like ran away. But like my body like really knows when something is a no and a yes. And I think that is like the greatest lesson I've ever learned in my life, is cultivating the intuition. Because I remember I like lived in Costa Rica off and on for about 5 years, and my last opportunity there, it was like so many things in the universe were like, this is a no, this is a no, this is a no. And I was like, I'm going to make it a yes. And I got sick for an entire year because I didn't listen to my intuition. And I really like want to share that. Like our body does talk to us. And when we actively choose, like myself, to ignore it, you could get health issues. Like I had gut health issues for an entire year. And the day I left Costa Rica, all my gut health issues went away like overnight. And it was because I wasn't listening to my intuition that year. Whereas like all the other years of my travel, I was super healthy because like I knew I was in the right place. Like everything was in alignment. And like, don't get me wrong, some days travel days are hard, like flights get canceled and things like that. And that's not really like an intuition thing. That's like a travel thing. But like if consistent things are happening that are giving you like red flags and you're ignoring that, your body's going to start speaking to you. And that I think was like one of the hardest lessons I learned. Like I wasn't only having gut health issues, I got into an accident and like got hit in my gut as well. Like all in Costa Rica. And I was like, okay, like I think it's time to go. And I just really want to emphasize, like, please listen to your intuition, especially while you're traveling, because when you listen to your intuition, like you're going to be put into the highest alignment of like what is meant for you in this life. And it's going to teach you like how to connect to your body on that human level. Like, I don't know, I feel like we could like follow our dreams, but like if we're not meant to be with around certain people or in a certain place, like our body tells us. It's kind of like if like you're out dancing one night and like something weird happens and it's like, okay, you know you need to go. And that is what travel has taught me, is like, is this good or is it bad, and like how is it going to serve me or how is it not going to serve me. And because it's my choice, like I need to listen to that. And yeah, just like really listen to your body. Like I practice every day. I call it, it's like a higher power check-in, or the, I don't even know, but like you put your hands on your head and you ask a question, and like it'll be either be yes or no. Then you put it on your heart, you ask the same question and it'll be yes or no. And then you put it on your intuition and you ask it and it'll say yes or no. And 9 out of 10 times, like two parts of my body are in alignment and one of them isn't, or all of it's in alignment. And like that's how I've really been making intuitive decisions lately, like even more so because of what I learned while traveling to connect to my intuition. It's called a powerhouse check-in. That's what it is. And I would just definitely do that. Like, and it can be over like really silly things or really serious things, but it's not even about the questions you're asking. It's about like connecting to your intuition on a deeper level so you can learn to actively listen to yourself. Yeah.
I love that. And how do you know when it's a yes and how do you know when it's a no?
I noticed that like if it's a no, my head will start hurting. And same with like my stomach. I've even like gotten like chest pains before if it's a no. So it could be like a physical sensation. But another really good time to ask it is like after you like had a sweaty yoga practice and you're really present, or like you go on a run, like you're really in your body, and that's when you ask it. Or like the first thing when you wake up in the morning, because you're still like, it's before you check your phone and things like that, like you're still in your body. So I think doing it when you're present in your body, and it can be physical, but I've also had my body just be like, no. So it could just tell you as well, but it's really putting like your entire hands on it and like listening for like a good like 15 seconds with each one, maybe longer.
Until you get the answer.
Until you get the answer. And like maybe I've had times where it was just like nothing and I'm like, okay, I'll come back to this tomorrow. And then I'll listen again and something will come through.
I think sometimes what I found difficult is the alignment, all the three settings kind of getting aligned. And because my mind is so strong, it will kind of interfere with an intuition a little bit. Do you have something to work on that?
I have learned that, or I don't know if I've learned, but I'm consistently learning that my thoughts are not who I am. And it's something I have to tell myself maybe 10 times a day, like my thoughts are not who I am. And I think it depends on who we are. So I'm someone who like, I'm very much heart-based and I listen to my heart over my intuition, like over my gut and my head a lot. And now I'm learning to connect all three. And I think the hardest one I have is my mind as well. But I do know that like my heart knows the way. And if I really focus, like maybe it's like a heart opening movement practice or like doing something that lights your heart up. Like I love to dance just like I love yoga. So maybe it's doing a practice that lights up a part of your body that you're a little bit less connected to. Like if you're less connected to your gut, maybe it's belly dancing, maybe it's back bends, maybe it's like a core class. If you're disconnected from your head, which like a lot of us are, maybe it's like getting a head massage. Maybe it's like you can do like breath work and like you're putting your fingers like on your third eye. It could be a visualization meditation, like things that awaken those parts of the body so we can not have one overtake the other.
That's beautiful. I've also learned to acknowledge my mind, right? It's like, thank you. I know you're protecting me. I'm grateful for you.
Got it. Heard.
Thank you. So now let's connect to the body.
Exactly.
I love that.
Like, exactly. Acknowledge it. Like, when I teach yoga, I tell my students, like, rather than forcing your thoughts to do something else, just like acknowledge that it's there. Because like we all have minds, we're all human.
And we need them.
Yeah, like we actually like it does help. Logic does help. So like acknowledge that it's there because that's truth as well. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh, that's beautiful. So is there any other lessons besides intuition?
Oh, yes. I learned as a yoga teacher, and I feel like this is good for anyone in any type of job, is that you shouldn't like put yourself in the I'm a yoga teacher box and I can only make money teaching yoga. What I learned in my travels is that in order to financially support myself, that I need to become skilled in 10 other skills. So like I know how to do sales. I know how to build websites. I know how to run a studio. I know like how to do social media. I know how to garden. And I taught myself these skills so that I could continue traveling the world and teaching yoga. Like I was a nanny for many years in New York. It's how I paid for my yoga teacher training. So it's like, don't put yourself in like, I can only do this one thing and profit from this one thing. Cause like you're really cutting yourself off from other opportunities or like discovering that you might love something outside of what you do. And that's also okay. Like I really love like business, and I have had to teach myself that like I'm allowed to love yoga just as much as I love to do business. And like both I can profit from, both I can create connections through. So if you, whatever career you're in, like I really want you to think about like what else am I good at that I can become great at so I can profit from it, because that could get you clients and connections and opportunities for years down the road. Like I went to Ireland for a few months in my early 20s, and because I had a huge like theater and acting background, I got hired to be in a music video there. And then the music video got nominated for a Grammy. Like I can't make this up. And I'm like, wow, like I stepped out of my yoga teacher box and chose to like go back into my little actress era, and I got to be in a music video, and like I got paid to do that, and that was really cool. So it's like maybe you get to do something cool like be in a music video. Maybe you really love cooking, and like maybe you cook for retreats or like you cook for events, and like bringing people together through food and stories of the food lights you up. So find other things that light you up, become excellent at them so that if you need to profit from them, you can. And I'm still doing that. I feel like that's why I have a business in Portugal now, is because I had to learn all those skills in order to be where I'm at today.
That's actually beautiful. And being an entrepreneur myself and having a business, the advice that I usually get, right, it's very much have a very clear niche, right? And my fear has always been, because I'm always also love to do different stuff.
Yeah.
My fear has always been, well, if people kind of think that, oh, I'm a coach, I'm that, I'm a trainer, I'm this, I will confuse people, right? And that has held me back also from unfolding a lot of my things, what I do. So I'm just sticking, trainer, coach.
I think that humans are multidimensional beings.
We are.
Yeah. And like you're actually someone who's taught me this because you're very, like, in my opinion, creative. And I wish I could be more creative in my business because I'm very like, I'm a businesswoman who teaches yoga, and it would be nice to bring more creativity into what I do. And you've taught me that. And like our friend Irena has taught me that too, that like it's okay to tap into that creativity and like to have other things that light us up, or like to bring those into what we do. And to me, it's like it's not confusing to me. Like I think it's cool. Like if you niche in one thing, like, and you only want to be known for that, like cool. If that lights you up, do that. But like if multiple things light you up, like do it all, and also choose like, do I have to profit from all of them? Like, can I do some of it just for the love? Like, I love writing poetry and I don't want to profit from that. Like, I just want to like heal from that. But like yoga and business, I'm okay to profit from that and equally enjoy doing it. And I don't think it confuses people if you make it make sense. Like the business I do is like I help people sell out their retreats. what do we do at retreats? We practice yoga. Like, it all connects. It all makes sense. And I feel like if you can't understand that, then like maybe you're not my client, and that's okay. You know? Like, I want to, like, we have this one life, you know, we got to do what lights us up.
Absolutely. I love that. I love that. I've been in the group with selling the retreats. You're so good at finding the opportunities and also connecting people as well.
Yeah,
That's
like,
great.
because when we connect people, like, we get to do what we love, and it's like, hell yeah.
Lovely. So what else? Any other lessons?
I have learned, and this has been like a really hard lesson for me, and I think I might like be learning it for like many years still, is that as women who live in a patriarchy, we have opportunities still to step into our leadership. Like, not only did I get to travel the world and teach yoga, I got opportunities to like manage some of the largest yoga studios in the United States. I got opportunities to be like the lead media journalist for some of the biggest festivals in Central America. And what I have learned, and I don't know if it's going to change in my lifetime, is that sometimes it's hard for people to see women in leadership positions. And like, I have gotten like some crazy characters, like really challenging my leadership. And it has taught me to be in my integrity. That like, I am a woman who leads. And as leaders, we're allowed to make mistakes. As humans, we're allowed to make mistakes. And we're also allowed to be damn good leaders. And I have learned that like we need to hire women. We need to work with women, and not just like women who look like us, but like women who speak other languages, women who are like who I want to be 10 years from now, women who are not the same like gender or like skin color or socioeconomic background as me. Like, we just need to hire women, because when we hire women, it's not only like representation of women, but it's showing the world that like women can do this, and it's showing the little girls who have yet to be women that they can do this. And I just want to be in leadership positions for the rest of my life, and be in leadership positions with other women, because like when women are at the table, we get to create fire. Like, we get to change this world for the better. And what I'm learning is like to continuously step into my leadership. And that's like really hard some days. Like, not only leadership for myself, but leadership in my business, and being in the integrity of it, which is like, you know, we're all entrepreneurs, we're all business owners, and like some days are really hard. Like, taxes are hard. Like, sometimes like working with like clients and venues and all the things, like it's all just overwhelming some days. But it's like, how can I be in my integrity? How can I be of service while still staying within my boundaries? And I'm learning that from other women. And just hire women, work with women, and don't be afraid to step into your power and your fire as a woman, because like there's a reason you're on this earth as a woman, like being pushed to be in that next leadership role. So follow that, and like know that you're capable of it. Yeah.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yes, women supporting women.
Yes.
All for that. Absolutely. It's such a strong power.
Yeah, and it's cool. Like, I remember I got to work at Envision Festival in Costa Rica, and I worked for them for 3 years. And the last year, they just like hired like an entire women leadership team, and it was like 10 times more amazing than the other 2 years when it was with men. And like, I like working with men, but it was like the first time I got to see and like work with women in leadership roles across the whole festival. And we created so much more than we had the other 2 years. And I'm like, wow, like this is what happens when women come together and create things. Like, we get to do what we love, we get to support each other, and just completely evolve into who we're meant to be.
But I'm curious, what was special about that leadership team?
I was told yes more, that I could do more things. Like, the first 2 years, like we were told to like pitch our ideas, and I was just constantly told, no, you can't do this. Like, you're not capable of it. We don't want you doing it. And then the last year, they hired all women, and they were like, yes, like go do this, and like let us know like what worked and what didn't work, and like what we can do better next time. Like, just keep trying. And then they gave me that permission, and then I ended up like I got to interview my most favorite musician. His name's Nako Bear. His tattoos are all over my body, like the lyrics to his songs. And like I got to interview him. I got to interview my favorite French DJ who was also a woman. And it was just because like they said yes, like that they believed in me. Whereas like the 2 years before, it was just the men only allowing the men to work and telling the women no. And then these women told men yes, they told women yes. And like not only that, they like would go to the interviews with us and like support us and like just really create an entire experience. Like we would create a stage for the interviews. We would decorate it. We would have like tons and tons of questions lined up and like bring it to their teams before the interviews even started. Like it was organized. It was very professional. It was in integrity. And we were told yes to like step into our creativity, to trust ourselves. And then magic was created because of it. Yeah. So say yes.
Beautiful. I love that. Yes, so you've been around a lot.
Yeah.
And now you're in Portugal.
I am, and I love it here.
So why Portugal, and how come you ended up here?
Thank you for asking that. So I am Portuguese and American.
And Greek, and...
I'm a lot of things. I'm a mix, a good mix. So funny story, my grandmother was a traveling teacher as well. And
So you got the genes.
I swear to God, like I didn't know this could be passed down. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm totally Floyd's granddaughter. So my grandma traveled throughout Africa teaching in girls' schools throughout Africa. And she met my Portuguese grandfather in Mozambique because my Portuguese family is from Goa and we're from Mozambique. So the great-grandparents are from Goa, the grandparents are from Mozambique. And my grandma fell in love with my grandfather and they had 4 kids. They have 4? Yeah, 4. I was like, wait a minute.
Am I missing
Yeah, I'm like, am I
around?
missing someone? I have there's like 100 of us in the Portuguese family. So I kind of have to like think, did I miss anyone? One of them was my mom. And the war broke out in Mozambique, so my family all came to Portugal. But I was born and raised in the States because when my grandma was pregnant with my mom, she went to New York and like had my mom there. So that's why I'm also from the States. And I didn't meet my Portuguese family until I was 20, backpacking Europe as a traveling yoga teacher. So I just Skyped with my aunt and was like, hey, like, I want to come to Portugal. I'd love to meet you. And she was like, come home, baby. And I have the tattoo on my wrist that says come home, baby, in her handwriting. And I just knocked on my aunt's door and she just opened up my entire world to Portugal. And I got to meet my whole family here.
That's touching, actually.
Like and I was 20 then. And I knew then that I would be moving to Portugal later in life, but I knew that I wanted to travel and get experience doing what I love. So I spent a week in Portugal and I just knew. And then 2 years ago, I came to Portugal and I was traveling the world a lot. And as travelers, we stay in hostels. And I was like, like my back hurts all the time from this giant backpack the size of my body that I'm carrying. Like yoga would be really good for travelers. So I opened my business first, the online portion of it. So in Portugal, like the bureaucratic system, it depends how you get here, but I had to open the online portion. So I own the name, the Yoga Hostel. And it was the first year it was online. I was just saving up money to open up my own space. I moved to Lisbon because I was living out at the beach with my family my first year. And I found this space that's in my home in Graça, which is the highest neighborhood in Lisbon. You just keep walking up and you'll get there, truly. And it has a Mirador view of the whole city. And when I was in Southeast Asia, I had an opportunity to go to a woman's home and practice yoga in her home. And there were like couches and TVs everywhere, but it was also like one of the most accessible yoga classes I ever had. And I just kept that thought in the back of my head because I was like, what if I bring people into my home and teach them how to come home to themselves, like come home, baby, through yoga? And that's what we do in my space. So women from all over the world come to my house and we practice yoga in the front room and we have mismatched teacups to drink tea after. We have a very accessible yoga practice. We have tarot card pools after. We have community events like sound healing and clothing swaps. And that's phase 1. Next year, the hostel will be opening in a location that I have not announced yet because things are brewing between now and January. I'm very excited. Yeah, and I'm gonna be opening a yoga hostel. So a place where people can stay affordably, so accessible travel with accessible yoga. And it's going to be here in Portugal because I want to be here with my family. They mean the world to me. And I really want to get back into the travel industry because that's kind of like where my yoga started. And just to teach people that like we can connect like tourism with practice, or like we can connect or reconnect to our bodies through travel. So I'm going to be opening the yoga hostel, we'll call it 2.0, next year. And I'm really excited about it.
That's really, really exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking forward to that.
Me too. And I'm like excited for where it's at right now. Like I think it's really cool that like we have this home space and like we get to connect through coming home to ourselves. And the space itself, I had like 10 days to find a place. Like I was like on a deadline. And the space actually overlooks my late grandfather's flat in Martin and I didn't know that until I got there. And I told the realtor, and she just put me at the top of the list and they gave it to me. And I'm like, yeah, like this is a family connection. Like this is a Portuguese deal. But it's just, it really aligned and I'm really happy. And yeah, like yoga can be as accessible as practicing in your living room. Mm-hmm. And I want everyone to remember that and to learn that like you don't have to like buy the Lululemon pants or like buy a fancy yoga mat. Like you can come to my place and just like practice in like thrift shop yoga clothes and like be just as welcome. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's beautiful. So what advice would you have for new yoga teachers?
Oh my God. Okay. New yoga teachers. What I did when I first started teaching yoga, and I really like this is like the best thing you can do for yourself, is try to work like not I know we all want to teach yoga, but get a front desk job at a yoga studio, become the assistant or personal or executive assistant to a yoga studio owner, or try to get a management or like assistant management job in a studio, gym, or retreat center. Because I dropped out of college 2 years after and I became a yoga teacher because I'm not really someone who learns at a desk. I learn through movement, probably why I teach yoga. And I was consistently getting jobs. Like I worked for this huge fitness influencer in Chicago who taught me how to run a yoga studio. And then 2 years later, I was hired to manage one of the largest yoga work studios in the United States. And the reason I'm sharing this is because you need to get that on-hands experience. And even if you're like, I don't want to be a yoga studio manager, cool, but you get to learn how the business of yoga works. You get to learn how to profit from it. And that is so important as yoga teachers. Like I said, become that 10-dimensional person so you can like consistently profit. So get a job in the yoga industry that pays you and that you have the option to make mistakes because it's not your business yet. So like get a front desk job, become an assistant or become a manager and just learn how the business works. And I did that like from age like 21 to 27, like basically right before I moved to Portugal. And that is like, I would do it again because I learned so much about myself. I learned how to become a leader in the yoga industry. I learned how to make money as a yoga teacher. And I feel like that experience has prepared me for my entire life. So please just get a job in a studio or retreat center and learn how to do the entire business.
Mm-hmm. What's coming across for me, Brytta, is how resourceful you are and also how courageous to go and try different things. And then also seeing the value of everything that you have been through, like how it adds up, right, to your experience and your expertise.
And I think that's like part of it is like I'm not a trust fund baby. I was raised by like a single mom and I'm like, I guess I got to get a job. Like it's very rude. And I'm so grateful for that because like I have just always got to learn and I always said yes. Like I would say yes to things I had no idea how to do. Like I remember one day, like my boss was like, hey, can you teach 5 a.m. personal training with weights? And I was like, yeah. And I had no idea what I was doing. I had like
the answer to the how is yes.
Yes, like just say yes to things you don't know how to do. And like YouTube everything. Like YouTube has taught me so much. Ask like people who you look up to. Like I before like in the middle of like while I was becoming a traveling yoga teacher, I met a couple. They were called the Yoga Nomads, and they were like the original yoga bloggers of like the world. And we were both in Costa Rica at the same time. And I just like sent them a DM on Instagram. And I was like, so how do you travel the world and teach yoga and make money doing it? And then like they became my business coaches for my first year in business. Oh, nice. And then like Anne, who's like one of the co-nomads, is like my best friend now. Like we talk every day. And it was just because I like sent her a DM and asked her how they do it. So don't be afraid to ask how to do something. Don't be afraid to teach yourself how to do something. Like maybe you can't afford a $10,000 course, but you can go on YouTube and learn how to do it. You can get a job and learn how to do it. You can get that hands-on experience so you can become resourceful. So just know that there's like multiple ways to learn and that you have to ask hard questions sometimes and to say yes to things that scare you. Like I learned how to teach like bar, which is like cardio ballet, like the day of the class. And I'm like, I guess we're gonna do it. And then like I started teaching bar and like got hired to do it. And like same with personal training. Like I started getting hired to do personal training because I just said yes one day to something I didn't know how to do.
Mm. Maybe this is an assumption
Okay.
that it's more, you get more opportunities in US than in Europe. Don't you think?
Yes, you definitely do. Yes, like I got a lot more opportunities when I was in the United States, and so did other people there, but they said no to them.
Mm.
So I would just say yes to almost anything. And I did burn myself out a couple times, but like when I was in my 20s, I had more energy then, it was fine. I was definitely given more opportunities, but I like it was still a choice. Like I could have said no, I don't want to learn how to run a yoga studio, sorry. So I think it's yes, you get more opportunities if you say yes to them and like do it afraid. Like I did so many things. Like I don't know how to do this, and I would just show up and try my best. And like my boss would be like, "Well, you messed up these 5 things, but you did great on these like 10 ones. So like let me teach you how to do these 5 other things better." And I think that's what it is. It's like saying yes and like knowing you're gonna make mistakes.
Mm.
Yeah.
But it seems like also having the right people and support system around you as well.
Yeah, and something I did because I was like I traveled a lot is I would literally just like quit my life and move to another town. Like I was living in New Orleans and I woke up one day and I'm like, this isn't for me anymore. And I just booked a one-way to Chicago and restarted my life. I did the same in Boston and New York and Costa Rica. Like it was like something my body would just know when something was over. So like I would move to places without knowing anyone, without a support system. So I had to learn how to build a support system for myself everywhere I've been. And I that's really hard, honestly. And at the same time, like I have created opportunities because of that. Like just willing to do partnerships, willing like the fitness influencer in Chicago, like the reason I like learned everything from her is like I showed up to her studio to audition to be a yoga teacher and she was like almost didn't hire me. She was like, I don't know if like you're a good fit for this, but like I'm gonna give you one class. And then like she ended up hiring me to run her entire studio. So it's like I just showed up and like hope for the best. And like some days it's not going to work out. And like some days it really is. And it's knowing like which opportunities are for you.
And I'm curious, what kept you going on and on and on from one place to the other? It's that exploration.
Yeah, I
What's
think it
that
was
about?
like, I just wanted to, I think it was like one, I got bored really easily. So like if I'm not challenged, my natural reaction is to leave. And I've changed that. I've grown a little bit from that now. You can't just run away
I
from
love it.
everything. But that was the truth in my 20s. And I don't know. I really just feel like each place served something in my life. Like New Orleans, for me, it was like the first time I had lost someone, like someone personal in my life had passed away. And New Orleans was all about healing for me. Like, and New Orleans is all about dancing and movement and Mardi Gras and partying and like dressing up exactly. So like I got to heal there, but like I also got to teach yoga on paddle boards there, and I got to like I got hired to teach yoga to a small family there, and like they ended up becoming my family there. Whereas Chicago really served the business side of yoga for me, and I got to learn like how to run like a yoga festival, how to run a yoga studio, how to teach yoga for water companies that aren't necessarily yoga, and like very business yoga like opportunities. Boston was like this is your studio, like go and run it and learn how to make money doing it. And it was like being put in that leadership position. And like New York was all about learning how to teach yoga and just cultivating my skills as a yoga teacher. So I actually think I was called to go to each place to learn how to do something that like led me to where I'm at today. So even though I would just peace out after opportunities, like I would sign contracts, stay there for my contracts, and then like head to the next country, each one was like a stepping stone to where I'm at today.
Brytta, what a rich life. When you mention all these countries, I'm like, wow.
A little crazy. You got to be a little wild, honestly. Like you just got to like that it is like follow your wild, like get adventurous. Yeah.
So keep follow your wild.
Yes. I got my 300 hour at this studio, and in yoga we say may all beings everywhere be happy and free, but at the studio I got certified at, we said may all beings everywhere be happy, wild, and free. Mm-hmm. So may you be happy, wild, and free.
Oh, with that, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, and thank you all for listening.
Thank you for being with us in the Life's Lessons Lounge. Remember, every story has its wisdom. Join us next time for more insights and inspiration. Until then, keep learning, keep growing, and keep sharing your own story.